So our next presenter is actually two presenters. We have Barb Eckstrom and Kat McCarthy, both from Tompkins County Solid Waste. Barb has been with Tompkins County Solid Waste for, the Tompkins County Solid Waste Manager for 25 years. Under her leadership, Tompkins County has implemented programs and operations that have resulted in a waste diversion rate of 60%. 60% is quite high. I'd like to say those of us in Syracuse and Onondaga County also have a 60% diversion rate. This success, I mean, this rate has really been accomplished through public-private partnerships, alternative funding strategies, and incentives to reduce waste. Barbara received her Bachelor's of Science and Master's of Science from Cornell, and prior to becoming the county's first solid waste manager, she was employed by the U.S. Soil Conservation Service and as an environmental consultant. And then presenting with her is Kat McCarthy, who over the past years has worked to develop and implement programs to increase waste reduction, reuse, recycling, composting, and green purchasing in the community. She serves on the board of the New York State Association of Reduction, Reuse, and Recycling, or NYSAR 3 for short, or just NYSAR, I don't know. And as Region 7 representative and board secretary. She's a master composter, and she spends her free time coordinating volunteers who staff compost recycling and trash sorting stations at local events. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Barb and Kat up.
Okay, we've been introduced, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about our mission, our goals, and really how this has all happened in Tompkins County. So basically, we try to manage our solid waste in a number of different ways, and we have lofty goals, and we'll talk about how we're going to get there. Our current waste diversion, actually, we just finished the numbers. It's 58%, but close enough. And that is really as it relates to recycling and composting in our planning unit. Let me give you a little history, because I have been with this program for almost 26 years. I will tell you, I have a 29-year-old daughter and a 25-year-old daughter, so that's something to kind of measure my time with the county. Of course, we had the municipal dumps that were closed, and we then went into the landfill stage. Of course, those were dumps and quarries and places that we learned later we shouldn't be dumping material. In 1988, and that was when I first started. Actually, it was 1987, 88. I remember the meetings with the Garbage Barge, MOBRO, and Legislative Commission on Solid Waste. That was Maurice Hinchey at the time. Where Will the Garbage Go was one of those reports, and new regulations were developed and guided by the DEC. So basically, here's a little bit of our history and what's really important. We were under consent order to close 2 landfills when I came. That had to happen. They were polluting the environment. And so basically, we were in a position where we had to haul our trash for what we thought was a temporary time until we sited the new landfill. So that's what we did. We were surprised to realize that the costs of trying to site our own landfill for 100,000 people, and roughly speaking at the time about 75,000 tons, kept climbing and climbing and climbing, and then all of a sudden we got these bids, and all of a sudden I scratched my head because they were quite a bit lower. And I said, where do we want to put our money? I worked with some legislators, and the decision was made not to build an in-county landfill. And at the time, of course, the landfills that we were shipping to were not in New York State, they were in other states. And so we began the quest to reduce our waste as much as possible so that we wouldn't impart any more headache on those landfill areas that we could, and we began to see how far we could go to reduce our solid waste. One of the things I did it was about 25 years ago. I was actually I had just had a baby, and I was looking, I was told, you need to figure out what incentives you want to use. And so, of course, I had spoken with some people out west and met with the person who developed the pay-as-you-throw concept in Seattle, and I clearly felt that the most important incentive, and this was 25 years ago, was to develop what I called the trash tag system, and we also needed to adopt mandatory recycling. Now, I will tell you that I was a rebellious teenager, and the idea of mandatory anything wasn't the most appealing thing to me. But on the other hand, the pay-as-you-throw program seemed like, I thought to myself, if we could really implement trash tags, and every can or bag was required to pay to have a tag on it that showed the cost of disposal. People would only use whatever trash tags they needed to throw away their trash. All right, that was help in the right direction, and indeed that turned out to be the case. That is a law in Tompkins County for the haulers, but at this point in time, they think it was their idea, not mine. So basically from there, we started our first partnership with the local cooperative extension to help people understand how to reduce waste through composting. We were also in the business of siting a new facility, a recycling MRF, combined with a transfer station. The reason that I chose that was because we weren't large enough to have one of each, and that it would serve the purpose someday of being able to pull some valuable materials from the trash, as well as having a separate recycling center. That was a good decision. The other thing we did was we established at that site a household hazardous waste center to reduce the toxicity of the material. And one of the things I didn't mention here is that we also started a curbside recycling program for the entire county. That basically we worked with the private sector to collect and bring that material to our facility. That was a good idea because it was, at the time, it was about $13 per household per year, instead of it being a lot more for your own hauler to collect it. And it was much more efficient, and it really gave the impetus for people to reduce the number of trash tags that they had. Finally, recent years, we've grown quite a few of our reduce, reuse, recycle, rebuy programs. Kat will talk about that in a little bit. And we actually just started a contract in 2011 with improvements to the recycling center, which I'll discuss. That contract is a 10-year contract with Casella Recycling. And finally, we're going to take a stab at really getting to 75% diversion with very serious food scrap diversion programs for recycling, and we'll talk about that later as well. Funding. When we recognized that we had this big job to do, we realized that we weren't going to be able to pay for all of this through a disposal fee, but the county also realized that the property tax couldn't support it either. So the Division of Solid Waste became an enterprise fund. And basically, the disposal fee, which residents pay through their trash tags or commercials pay through a per ton fee, was one aspect, which really represents about half of my total $6.3 million budget right now. The other was an annual solid waste fee. We did get state enabling legislation, so that fee is available to other municipalities, and that pays for all of our non-disposal costs, including the capital investments and all of our programs. Just so you know, there's a fee structure for that, which different people pay, including the tax-exempt colleges. Other funds, we were very aggressive in going after significant grant money, primarily at the state level, but also at the federal level, and that has been a major impetus as well to keeping our costs down. And of course, recycling revenues, working together with a national recycling company all these years, and we've had 3 now. Again, the market, we get a very, very high revenue from the sale because of the millions of tons that they actually sell. All right, this is a really old slide. We haven't updated it, but it still applies, which is kind of cool. So The way this works is you've got a hauler who sells these trash tags. They're all different colors for the different haulers. We have some specs on those. The residents put their tags on cans and bags. Hauler picks them up and then in turn pays a disposal fee. This even applies if the hauler isn't coming to our recycling and solid waste center. There are haulers that there's another hauler that has their own transfer station, and there's other haulers who go directly to the landfills near you. So, but it still applies, and we do have an enforcement officer who does about 6 different things, and one of them is to make sure people are still using these tags. So as far as the user fees, again, I describe this as a local law. This is what gives us our stable funding source for both capital improvements and funding for our programs. Very, very important. There's a number of categories in terms of how we charge, and I do pay money to our finance department. I don't get anything for free in Tompkins County because I'm an enterprise fund and they all charge me for everything. But in any event, that fee is about $1 per year, $1 per week for residents, and then there are other categories as well. Some of the programs it funds are recycling, the recycling facility, collection, and all of these other things that we talked about. We do contract with a nonprofit, FingerLakes Reuse, for the reuse center, and more stuff that Kat will talk about. Here are, one of the things that's been important to me all along and remains important, and maybe that's why I'm still in my position, is that I believe strongly in the public-private partnership model, as well as partnerships with nonprofits. And that I would say about 85 to 90% of our budget is through these contracts of one sort or another. And we coordinate, we're very involved in quality control, quality assurance, and I've got to hurry up. I talked to you about the recycling program already. I talked to you about the recycling center, talked to you about how that partnership works. One of the things that's novel is we do take a lot of materials, both curbside and at the facility. This is all new. That's our observation walkway over there, but there are, oh, I just noticed a typo. Single stream, we might need to correct that. Single stream recycling is the main function. Commercial recycling is, I think, one of the coolest things we do. That's a single stream, that's high fiber that comes from a lot of the commercials. We actually pay them to bring their material in, universities and haulers and things like that, so that we get the high fiber, which has the most revenue, which helps us in every way. We got a drop-off area for lots of stuff at our facility. And then we also transfer waste. What I won't do is I won't get into all the details of this because we're running out of time. And I will say that Cayuga Compost and Tompkins County have a 3-year contract, and they're about to get, hopefully soon, a permit modification to take more material. And we do work with businesses, schools, events, and we're now into residential pilot collections as well as drop spots, and Kat can go from here. Thank you.
So as Barb mentioned, we're working with Cayuga Compost on expanding options for both residents, businesses, and schools. The first one that we have for residents is drop spots. We have 2 in the county where residents can actually bring their material to compost if they don't want to do it on site. And Cayuga Compost, one of the nice things is they take a little more material than what you would traditionally compost at home. So your compostable disposables, your meat, bones, and dairies, that's some more options and more opportunity to divert material through that. We have started a curbside pilot that started this past fall with about 400 homes where we actually go through and collect material. We're looking at a phase 2 expansion in the coming months to continue that as well. And we do work with multifamily homes as well, anything with 5 units or more, we're working with on the food scraps recycling through that program. In addition to composting offsite, we are working with Cornell Cooperative Extension for their Compost Education program. This has been a partnership that's been in place for about 20 years. And what they do is they do the Master Composter training, which is peer-to-peer education, and they also offer resources and support to individuals who want to compost on-site. We see value to both ends of the composting, making it as clean, convenient, and comfortable for residents at whatever scale they're looking to compost material. Our Business Partners program is designed to help businesses, organizations, and schools practice the 4 Rs. What we do is we offer a free waste assessment where we'll actually meet with a business representative to kind of understand what some of their issues are and their challenges are. We provide them with a benchmarking report that also includes kind of the next steps. What are your opportunities? How can you seize those opportunities? And we also share some tools with them: free recycling bins, signage, decals, and ongoing technical support. The benefit there is we're helping them increase recycling, so that's helping us increase our goals as well. So it's a win-win for those businesses. FingerLakes Reuse, Barb did mention we have a partnership with them. They're one of our many public-private partnerships. They operate a reuse center as well as an e-center, and they do have construction and demolition, deconstruction service, which is an alternative to demolition, where they're actually taking buildings apart by hand and reusing, salvaging the materials that they take apart. The 4th R in our 4R programs is Rebuy. It's our green purchasing piece, and that's where we close the loop. So we have a website, FingerLakes Buy Green, that helps share resources for that. We're also in support of extended producer responsibility programs. Earlier it was mentioned about packaging, product stewardship. That's the type of thing. So having the producers take responsibility for the materials that they're producing. In order to help engage people, we have a lot of outreach initiatives. We offer tours, we come into schools, we do summer camps, and we're also at events. We've got a team of outreach assistants that comes to events, meets people where they are, kind of mingles through the events, and shares information about our programs. And along the lines of events, we also offer a borrow a bin program, so event coordinators can actually increase their recycling. They don't have to actually own recycling bins. They can borrow our bins and collect materials from the events. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Barb.
All right, I'm going to assume I have 30 seconds to a minute. We are in the process of developing our 10-year solid waste plan to go as far as we can with diversion. We have been, a lot of what we've already done with getting to 60% is, far along, but we've got to add some other components having to do with waste prevention and organics, which is a significant part of the waste stream. There's no question in my mind that there will be drop spots all over the county, as well as the option from haulers to be able to pick up food scraps at the curb over the next couple of years. And again, we really are looking to grow different programs in reuse, and we are, not only do we pass a resolution in Tompkins County to support the state's initiatives, we're also working with the state on furthering their initiatives because they need a little bit of a kick. So we strive to work with all of our customers. That's how we look at them. And they pay fees, both in terms of throwing their garbage away and their annual fee. And again, we're very customer service based. We see over 170,000 customers per year doing one thing or another, and we try to offer as many options as people can and get the word out in terms of not just the single stream recyclables, the special materials, the food scraps, and all that and more. And we do try to promote our public, our nonprofit and private sector partners. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry to interject, but I just wanted to let people in the audience know. Barb was kind enough to bring a package on the details of a number of their aspects of their program, as well as dollars and cents and what things cost. And I have all that information organized for you. If there's any supervisors or municipal officials that would like a package, please see me. I'm holding a bunch of them. I have a limited number, but I'd like to make sure that I get these to you because it'll be very useful. And we can email it later, but we have some right here for you. Thanks, Barb.
Thanks, Ken, and thanks again, Barb and Kat, for your presentation. It's nice to see communities that are really progressive in their solid waste management. And I learned something new about the 4 R's. Until today, I only thought there were 3. Rebuy, so our